My parents took me to court over my new house. They claimed it belonged to my sister. I fought back alone, and when the judge heard their scheme, everything fell apart. It started with a text message from my father that buzzed through the silence of my new house like a warning shot. "We need to talk about the house situation. Call me immediately." I assumed they wanted to congratulate me, maybe offer to help decorate. I never imagined they were about to declare war. I called. My mother answered first, voice syrupy and fake. "Honey, we've been thinking, it's only fair that you give the house to Melissa." I blinked, certain I misheard. "Give her the house? What are you talking about? You're doing so well. Melissa's struggling. She needs it more," my father added, like this was a reasonable thing to say to the son who had spent 8 brutal years saving every cent to your family. "Family helps each other." When I didn't respond, he doubled down. "We also think it's fair you keep paying the mortgage for 2 more years. You know, until she's back on her feet." I laughed, not a polite laugh, the kind of sharp, unfiltered noise you make when someone sets your world on fire and hands you a bucket of gasoline. Then I hung up. A week later, they sued me. The lawsuit wasn't just petty, it was a full-on fever dream. They were suing me for $300,000 for emotional damages related to raising me, plus full ownership of the house. My sister posted pictures of dream home inspiration on Instagram with captions like, "Manifesting my forever home. #family first." Meanwhile, my aunt, who once got drunk and blamed me for not inviting her to my high school graduation, was funding the whole legal circus. She sent me an email calling me an ungrateful little shit and reminding me that Melissa had a harder life. Melissa, who once crashed my car while high and made me pay for the repairs. My grandparents tried to step in. Grandpa told them they were nuts. Grandma simply said, "Let him burn it all down if he has to." The first court date was 2 months away. 2 months where I barely slept, barely worked. I didn't even sit on my brand new couch because I kept thinking it might not be mine for long. I started walking the neighborhood at night, watching families eat dinner through lit windows, wondering if they were plotting against each other too. When the day came, I didn't hire a lawyer. I couldn't afford it. They were bleeding me dry with the lawsuit alone. So I walked into that courtroom with nothing but a folder and a plan. Their lawyer, a greasy guy who looked like he should be selling knockoff Rolexes in an alley, grinned at me like I was already dead. My parents sat behind him, arms folded, faces smug. Melissa wore a new designer jacket, probably bought with the money she expected to steal from me. I didn't give them a speech. I didn't plead for decency. I let them talk first. Their case was a mess. Emotional damages, family obligation, Melissa's severe financial trauma. At one point, my mom actually cried. I almost admired the performance. Then it was my turn. I pulled out a thick, black folder and dropped it on the judge's bench with a heavy slap that echoed across the courtroom. Inside, screenshots, emails, bank records. My aunt's text messages admitting the lawsuit was to teach me a lesson. Melissa's Instagram posts about moving into her house months before the suit even started. And the kicker, a recorded phone call between my parents where my dad said, "Don't worry, he's too soft to fight." The judge went quiet. The room went quiet. Then the judge spoke. Case dismissed. Counterclaims permitted. My parents' faces cracked. Melissa's mouth fell open. Their lawyer looked like he wanted to vanish. But I wasn't done. I countersued for legal fees, emotional distress, and fraudulent claims. The judge didn't just allow it, he encouraged it. The story went viral after a local reporter picked it up. Headlines blared, "Son sued by family wins stunning court battle." People reached out offering free legal help, donations. I declined. I didn't want charity. I wanted to finish this myself. Melissa tried calling me later that night, left a voicemail sobbing, saying she didn't mean it to go this far. I didn't respond. My parents sent a letter. Not an apology. A guilt trip. "Family is everything," they wrote. "You should remember where you came from." I remembered exactly where I came from, and I was never going back. The house feels bigger now. Emptier too, but better. I left the guest room completely empty as a reminder. Some doors don't deserve to be opened again. A few weeks later, I framed the court ruling and hung it in the hallway, right where a family portrait might have gone. Every morning, I walk past it on my way out the door, and it reminds me, some inheritances are better burned than received. And I smile, because for the first time in my life, the house, the future, and the fight, it's all mine. 3 weeks after the court ruling, just when I thought the storm had passed, Melissa showed up at my front door. Not alone. She stood there flanked by 2 men in matching gray suits, sweaty, out of breath, holding clipboards. Realtors. She smiled like she was the queen of some conquered country. "I'm here for the open house," she said sweetly, stepping forward like she owned the place. I didn't even answer. I just stood there, blocking the doorway, feeling the temperature in my veins plummet. The 2 suits shifted awkwardly behind her, realizing something was off. "You're trespassing," I said calmly, too calmly. "There's no open house." Her fake smile cracked. She shoved a sheet of paper in my face. "According to this," she hissed, "the house is listed under a private seller." "That's you, right? Dad said you were thinking about cashing out." "I'm just trying to help move things along." I scanned the paper. It wasn't even real. A forged listing, slapped together in a way so lazy it hurt my brain. Photos pulled from Zillow. A fake agent's signature. Melissa was trying to sell my house without me. Behind her, the two realtors glanced at each other, then at me. "Sir," one said carefully, "is this legitimate?" I laughed. "Short, ugly. Does it look legitimate?" Melissa turned red. "You're just being difficult. Everyone agrees it's better for the family if you sell. You don't even deserve." I slammed the door in her face so hard it rattled the frame. The next morning, my car tires were slashed. 3 of them, not 4. Slashing 3 instead of 4 meant insurance wouldn't cover it. An old trick. Melissa's trick. I didn't report it. I didn't call her. I didn't even bother getting mad. I just called a tow truck, paid cash, and replaced the tires. Quietly, patiently, because I was done playing defense. While Melissa was busy plotting high school tier sabotage, I was making real moves. I filed a no trespass order against her. I switched banks, locking down every account under my name. I installed security cameras so sleek they practically whispered, "Don't even think about it." And then I hit her where it hurt. I called the zoning office. Turns out Melissa's dream job, the home bakery she ran illegally out of her cramped apartment, had a lot of violations. Health codes, licensing issues, missing permits. A few fines would have been survivable. But after a thorough inspection, they shut her down permanently. One anonymous tip was all it took. 2 days later, she posted a meltdown on Facebook, ranting about haters and jealous family members who ruined dreams. She begged for donations to restart her business from scratch. 0 donations. Not even a pity like from Mom. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I just moved on. Until the night someone tried to break into my house. It was 2:17 a.m. I woke up to the soft beep of the security system. Checked the camera feed. Someone, clumsy and desperate, was jiggling the back door handle. Hoodie up, mask on. But even through the grainy footage, I recognized the posture. Melissa's boyfriend, the one who once bragged at Thanksgiving about how he wasn't afraid to handle things like a man. I didn't even get out of bed. I pressed a button on my phone. Outside, floodlights exploded into the yard, blindingly bright, and a recorded message blasted through hidden speakers. "Smile for the cameras. Law enforcement has been notified." The guy bolted like a rabbit, slipping in the mud, his shoes flying off as he stumbled down the street. I didn't call the cops. No, I sent the video straight to my lawyer. The next morning, Melissa's lawyer called me, stammering and apologizing, begging to settle everything quietly. Suddenly, Melissa was willing to drop all remaining claims against me: lawsuit threats, social media smears, even the absurd restraining order she had filed when I ignored her calls. I told them to send the paperwork and left it at that. By the time the dust settled, Melissa had lost her business, her boyfriend, he ghosted her after the break-in, and whatever scraps of dignity she had left. As for me, I threw a housewarming party. No family, no apologies. Just a backyard full of people I chose, friends who didn't ask for handouts, who didn't demand I set myself on fire to keep them warm. Late that night, I stood on my porch, a cold beer in hand, watching the stars blur into smudges above the trees. For the first time in my life, I wasn't angry. I wasn't broken. I was free, and that was worth more than anything they ever tried to steal. I should have known Melissa wouldn't go down quietly. 3 months after the housewarming party, after the dust, the court orders, the fake apologies had all dried up, I got a certified letter at the door. It wasn't from her. It was from the city. Apparently, someone had anonymously reported my house as abandoned. They claimed it was unoccupied, unsafe, in violation of local housing codes. In short, Melissa had found a new game. If the city condemned the house, they'd have to seize it, auction it, and she'd swoop in to buy it for pennies. I stood in the driveway reading the letter, watching a city inspector photographing my windows like I was some squatter in my own home. I waved, smiled. "Want a tour?" I asked. He looked nervous. "You live here?" I gestured grandly. "Would you like to meet my cat too?" The inspector shuffled awkwardly and mumbled about misunderstandings. I invited him inside anyway. Walked him room to room, pristine floors, freshly painted walls, furniture that screamed, "Someone lives here." I even handed him a sealed envelope at the door, notarized letters from neighbors confirming full-time occupancy. I knew this move was coming. I had prepped for it. The inspector left red-faced, apologizing, promising it would be cleared up immediately. Melissa must have been parked somewhere down the street, watching, because 10 minutes later my phone blew up with texts from an unknown number. "You think this is over? You ruined my life. You stole everything from me." I didn't reply. I knew better than to feed wild animals. 2 days later, she posted on Facebook that she was planning a peaceful protest outside my house. She called it a family justice rally, said she was exposing greed and betrayal. At first I thought it was a bluff. It wasn't. On Saturday morning, a battered white van pulled up across the street. A handful of people climbed out: Melissa, a few of her washed-up friends, a guy holding a handmade sign that said "Reunite families, not houses." I watched from the living room window, sipping coffee. Melissa planted herself on the sidewalk, bullhorn in hand, and started shouting. At first, it was nonsense about betrayal and blood obligations. Then it got darker. She started yelling my full name, my address. She screamed about filthy secrets and criminal fraud. There was no fraud. There were no secrets. But Melissa didn't care. She was banking on humiliation. A few neighbors peeked out their doors. Some walked past shaking their heads. A dog barked somewhere down the street. Melissa kept shouting, her voice cracking, spit flying. I didn't call the cops. I called the news. More specifically, a contact I had, a small-time crime blogger who owed me a favor. I tipped him off about a strange protest at a private residence. 20 minutes later, he showed up, camera rolling. And just my luck, Melissa, enraged by the lack of attention, ripped off her own shirt in the middle of the street and started screaming about conspiracies, waving her fists like a manic preacher. It was glorious. The video went viral locally within hours. The Czar family feud erupts in neighborhood meltdown. Neighbors shared it. Strangers commented. Memes popped up. Someone auto-tuned Melissa's rant into a techno remix called "You Stole My Birthright," Club Edit. The next day, the police served her with a formal warning. One more disturbance and she'd be charged with harassment. Her boyfriend dumped her. Again. Her parents, desperate to salvage their public image, disowned her officially this time, cutting her off from the family trust fund she always expected to inherit. By the end of the week, Melissa had deleted all her social media and skipped town. I heard through the grapevine she's living 2 states over now, working part-time at a vape shop and telling everyone she's reinventing herself. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel anger. I felt something better. I felt nothing. No more family obligations. No more guilt. No more waiting for approval from people who saw me as nothing but a walking wallet. I owned my house, my future, my freedom. And every time I pass that framed court ruling in the hallway, every time I hear the faint echo of Melissa's auto-tuned rant from someone's car stereo at a stoplight, I remember. Some battles are worth fighting, because sometimes the war isn't just about winning. It's about making sure they never dare to come for you again. 3 years passed. The house became my fortress, my sanctuary. Not a single memory of Melissa or the lawsuit survived inside these walls. I built new ones. Friends, relationships, even a rescue dog that barked at every passing cloud but made the place feel alive. I had almost forgotten her. Almost. Then came the letter. No stamp, no return address. Just a plain white envelope taped to my front door, like some lazy ransom note. Inside was a single sheet of paper, written in shaky block letters. Congratulations on the engagement. See you soon. I froze. I wasn't engaged. I wasn't even dating anyone seriously. What the hell was this? I checked the cameras. No footage. The system had glitched at 2:14 a.m., black for exactly 6 minutes. The footage resumed like nothing happened. My chest tightened. I told myself it was a prank. A mistake. Maybe a neighbor's weird kid playing games. I told myself that until the next night when the doorbell rang at 2:14 a.m. exactly. I didn't answer. I watched through the peephole as a figure in a white wedding dress stood motionless on my porch, veil covering her face, barefoot, still as a corpse. I turned on the porch light. The figure didn't move, didn't flinch, just stood there, swaying slightly in the wind, a torn veil flapping against her face. I called the cops. By the time they arrived, she was gone, leaving behind a single muddy footprint and a crumpled bouquet of dead flowers. The cops found nothing. No prints, no tire tracks, nothing but the eerie silence that settles when something very wrong has visited your world. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't sleep the next night either when the same bouquet appeared on my back porch. Or the third night, when the cameras glitched again, 6 minutes of darkness, and I woke up to find the words "Till Death Do US" part scratched into my driveway. Melissa. It had to be. But when I tracked down the last address she'd used, the vape shop 2 states over, they said she hadn't shown up for work in months. Hadn't even picked up her last paycheck. Her old apartment had been abandoned. The manager said it looked like she left in a hurry, dishes still in the sink, TV still on. Missing, gone, no record since. The police put it down as a possible voluntary disappearance. I put it down as a warning. Someone had opened a door in Melissa years ago that never closed again. I just didn't realize some doors open 2 ways. Weeks passed. The attacks slowed. The flowers stopped. The scratches faded in the rain. I convinced myself it was over. until the night I came home to find the front door unlocked. Everything inside was untouched, silent, cold, except on the kitchen counter, next to the still warm coffee pot I swear I hadn't made, sat an open wedding album, photos that didn't exist. Pictures of me in a tuxedo, standing stiffly beside a woman in a white dress whose face was blurred out, twisted into a smear like an unfinished painting. In every photo, my smile was just slightly wrong, crooked, strained, forced, and across the last page, in deep red ink that bled through the paper, "You promised." I didn't know what the promise was. I didn't remember making it. But standing there, heart hammering, the world tilting at the edges, I understood one thing with absolute clarity. Some debts don't get paid off with lawsuits. Some ghosts don't care about winning or losing. Some ghosts just want you to never, ever forget. I burned the wedding album, right there in the kitchen sink. Watched the pages blacken and curl like dead leaves, the red ink bubbling and hissing as it melted. Smoke filled the air. My eyes stung. Still, for the first time in weeks, I smiled. It was over. It had to be. Until the next morning, when I opened my mailbox and found a marriage license inside. Filed, stamped, approved, my name, Melissa's name, dated 2 weeks ago. I staggered back from the mailbox, my hands shaking so hard I dropped the papers into the gutter. No, impossible. You can't forge a legal marriage, right? I spent the entire day in a fog, pacing the house, rechecking the locks, the cameras, the doors, the windows. Every creak, every shadow made my heart stutter. By evening, I made a decision. I wasn't going to wait for whatever came next. I was going to end this. Completely. I packed a bag, grabbed my laptop, my passport, every important document I had left. I booked a one-way ticket online to anywhere. Didn't even check where. Just gone. I stuffed the wedding license in my duffel bag. Evidence. I texted a friend to watch the house, just in case. Just in case I was wrong. Just in case Melissa was really dead. Or worse. Just in case she wasn't. I left for the airport before the sun went down, driving faster than I should have through streets that looked suddenly too empty, too clean, too stage set perfect. Halfway there, at a red light, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I ignored it. It buzzed again, and again, and again. 37 missed calls in under 5 minutes. When the light turned green, I floored it. The airport loomed ahead. Safety, distance. The departures board blinked like a heartbeat. Flights to New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, all wide open. I raced through security, barely hearing the TSA agent mumble about random screening. I didn't care. I didn't even flinch when they pulled my bag for secondary inspection. The agent unzipped my duffel, rifled through the documents, and froze. "Sir," he said, lifting the marriage license. "Sir, you didn't declare this." I blinked. "It's just a document." He shook his head, lips thinning into a hard line. "This isn't just a document. You're flagged in the system. There's a court summons attached to your name. Immediate compliance requested." What? He turned the paper over. Stapled to the back was a second sheet. Notice to appear in family court. Charges, abandonment of spousal duties. Plaintiff, Melissa. I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was the sound you make when the walls of reality start to bend, and you realize you've been living inside someone else's dream or their nightmare. The TSA agent called over 2 security officers. "Sir, please come with us." I ran. I don't even know what I thought would happen, that I could outrun bureaucracy? Outrun Melissa? The guards tackled me outside the gate, slamming me against the cold tile floor as travelers gawked and filmed on their phones. Someone shouted about an incident. Someone else said, "He looks terrified." They weren't wrong. Sitting handcuffed in a glass room under humming fluorescent lights, I pieced it together. Melissa never wanted the house. She never wanted the money. She wanted me, or more accurately, she wanted to own me. And somewhere along the line, she had figured out the cruelest kind of revenge wasn't taking what I had. It was taking who I was. The man who escaped. The man who fought back. The man who thought he could be free. When they released me, no charges yet, just a misunderstanding pending a court review, I stumbled out into the night with nothing but a dead phone and a dead future. I couldn't go home. Home wasn't safe anymore. Not because of Melissa. Because I finally understood. The house wasn't cursed. I was. And there's no running from that. I didn't go home. I drove. I kept driving until the gas tank coughed and the headlights flickered against an unfamiliar stretch of empty highway. Miles of nothing. I pulled over at a crumbling motel, the kind of place you don't even Google reviews for because you already know. The clerk barely looked up as I handed over crumpled bills for a room key. Room 9. Of course it was 9. Melissa's old favorite number. 9 is lucky, she used to say. 9 means new beginnings. New beginnings. Or endings. I didn't sleep. I sat in the armchair by the window, watching the parking lot breathe under the dull yellow glow of the street lamp, hands clenched so tight my knuckles cracked. Somewhere between 3 and 4 a.m., there was a knock at the door. Soft, delicate. 3 taps. I froze. Who even knows I'm here? The knock came again, a little louder this time, insistence bleeding through the wood. I stood up, heart slamming against my ribs. Who is it? My voice cracked mid-sentence. No answer. I peered through the peephole. Empty. No one there. I backed away, sat down again, told myself it was nerves. The mind playing tricks. Maybe some drunk lost his room. 5 minutes passed. Maybe 10. And then, my phone lit up. Unknown number. I nearly dropped it. The screen pulsed once, twice. Then a message appeared. No words. Just a photo. Of me. Right now. Sitting by the window. In room 9. I shot up, whirling toward the window, but the parking lot was empty except for a battered truck and a flickering Coke machine. I yanked the curtains shut, locked the deadbolt, shoved the rickety dresser against the door for good measure. My breath came in ragged gasps. I wanted to tell myself it was Melissa still somehow orchestrating this, still alive, still crazy, but deep down, I knew better. This wasn't revenge anymore. This was something else, something older, something patient. The marriage certificate hadn't been forged. The photos hadn't been photoshopped. I had made a promise. And someone or something was here to collect. I grabbed my bag, ready to bolt anywhere. It didn't matter when I saw it, carved into the wood of the door, just below the handle. Fresh, deep. The words, "You are mine." I didn't scream. I couldn't. It felt like all the air had been sucked out of the room. There was only one place left to go. Not away, not forward, but back. Back to the house. The house I had fought for. The house I had bled for. The house where it all began, and maybe where it all had to end. I drove through the dead hours of the morning, pavement humming under bald tires, sky bleeding into a gray that wasn't quite dawn yet. When I pulled onto my street, I knew something was wrong immediately. The house was different. It leaned. It breathed. The lights were on inside, every window blazing, but no one was supposed to be there. Not anymore. Not ever again. I parked halfway down the street and walked, heart in my throat, feeling like I was stepping into someone else's nightmare. My own shadow didn't even want to follow me. When I reached the front steps, the door swung open on its own. No wind, no noise, just the heavy, humid smell of something rotten and sweet. I stepped inside. The house swallowed me whole. The walls pulsed, almost imperceptibly. The floor seemed to sigh under my weight. And there, standing at the end of the hallway, backlit by the impossible glow of the kitchen lights, a figure, veil down, white dress, bare feet leaving bloody prints across the wood. Melissa? I stepped forward. The figure lifted its head. Not Melissa. Not anything human. Its face was a blur of features, a melting collage of every nightmare, every regret, every twisted memory stitched together by something that had learned to smile but had no right to. It raised one hand, skeletal fingers twitching, and pointed at me. "You said forever," it whispered, in a voice made of every wrong thing. The door slammed shut behind me. I didn't turn. I didn't run. I understood now. Some promises don't break. Some promises break you. And mine had just begun. The figure stepped closer, feet dragging across the warped floorboards, the bloody footprints smoking where they touched the wood. I didn't move. Couldn't. The house itself seemed to lean inward, collapsing around me without ever physically moving, the walls breathing, the windows rattling, the very air knotting itself around my lungs. "You said forever," the thing whispered again, a voice stitched from Melissa's, my own, others I didn't recognize, layered over each other like a chorus of regrets. I stumbled backward into the living room. Everything was wrong. The furniture was rotted versions of what I owned. The couch sagged like a corpse. The walls oozed something dark and sticky. And framed photos lined the mantelpiece, but the faces in them weren't mine. They were almost mine. Distorted smiles. Eyes too wide, mouths too sharp. Images of a life I never lived, but somehow remembered. In every photo, the figure in the wedding dress stood behind me, watching, waiting. I ran. I sprinted through the kitchen where the sink overflowed with thick black water, into the hallway where doors swung open into impossible rooms that stretched into miles of darkness, and finally to the stairs. I scrambled upward 2-3 steps before something seized my ankle. Cold, unforgiving. I kicked wildly, panic blinding me. "You can't leave," the house whispered from the walls, from the floors, from inside my own chest. "You belong here. You always did." I tore free, burst into what used to be my bedroom, now just a box of mirrors reflecting every failure, every wrong choice, every version of me that never fought back. In the center of the room, waiting patiently, was a mirror taller than any man, and in that mirror, Melissa. Not twisted, not monstrous, just Melissa. In her prom dress, her graduation cap, her bakery apron, smiling, almost sadly. "You left me," she said. and for a moment, my rage cracked. Underneath everything, the lawsuits, the betrayals, the madness, there was still that girl. The one who had always needed more. The one who had been promised something better. The one who hated me for surviving when she couldn't. Tears stung my eyes, hot and stupid. I never promised you forever, I said. My voice broke. I promised myself a life. Melissa tilted her head. You lied. And the mirror shattered. 1,000 splinters of glass slicing into the air, into my skin, into my mind. The world folded. The house fell inward. The walls collapsed into themselves like crumpled paper. The ground ripped open beneath me, pulling everything down, down, down. And then I woke up. Sunlight poured through clean windows. The real couch. The real house. The real air, still and heavy with summer. No Melissa. No wedding dress. No blood. Just me. Alone. Still breathing. Still here. The clock on the wall ticked, patient and indifferent. The house was empty, silent, but in the faint reflection of the TV screen, I saw it, just for a second. The veil, the dress, the eyes, watching, waiting, and deep down, under the armor of logic and denial I tried to wear like a shield, I understood. Some doors, once opened, never really close. Some promises echo forever. And some ghosts don't need a house to haunt you, they just need you to remember.